the CEO showed up without a suit. And that was enough for her to decide he didn't belong. She didn't ask his name. She didn't bother with questions. She'd learn the truth the hard way, right in front of everyone. Gregory Wynn rarely carried his phone on morning runs. He liked the quiet, the chance to let his thoughts drift as the cool air cut through the noise of his high-stakes world. But today wasn't normal. His phone buzzed insistently in his waistband pocket, refusing to be ignored. Savannah's heat was already rising, the salty breeze mixing with the uneven pavement of Oglethorpe Avenue. Gregory barely noticed the burn in his legs or the sweat trickling down his temples. His mind was locked on numbers, deadlines, a property near an old train station, overlooked for years but now a gold mine. And time was running out. He checked his watch. 8 a.m. The bank opened in 30 minutes. Turning onto Abercorn Street, he slowed to a walk, pulling a small towel from under his hoodie. On any other day, he'd have gone home first, showered, changed, slipped into his sharp charcoal suit with the cufflinks. Not today. Speed mattered more than appearances. Gravel crunched under his sneakers as he passed a mural celebrating Gullah heritage. A few people glanced his way, but he was used to that. Wiping his face, he caught his reflection in a car window. Navy pullover, faded black joggers, clean but casual. Deliberately ordinary. Gregory had no patience for flash. He hadn't worn a tie in 6 months, not since relocating Sovereign Unity Bank's southern operations from Miami to Savannah, to be near his late mother's hometown. "Don't dress for the room," she'd always told him. "Let the room dress for you." At 47, with 20 years of finance under his belt and his name printed on every Sovereign Unity brochure, Gregory had mastered the power of silence, of knowing when to speak and when to wait. Rounding the corner onto East Congress Street, he spotted the bank just 2 blocks away. His assistant, Simone, was already parked outside, tapping on her iPad, the car's AC humming through the cracked window. "Paperwork's ready," she called as he approached, all signed and sealed. Gregory nodded and headed for the glass doors. The building was understated, a modern renovation in a city known for its ghosts and gardens. The Sovereign Unity logo gleamed in gold foil above the entrance, alongside the words, "Built for everyone." Inside, the air was icy. Banks always made sure you remembered you weren't at home. 2 tellers chatted behind the counter. An older man lingered near the loan desk. A woman in heels flipped through a pamphlet, barely glancing up. Then a tall woman in a burgundy pantsuit stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over him. Gregory felt it instantly, the judgment, the once-over. "Good morning," he said smoothly. "I need to make a withdrawal, a large one. It should already be in my file. Gregory Wynn." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes narrowed slightly, arms folding. "Do you have an appointment?" "Number. But it's urgent. My credentials are on file." She didn't move. "What kind of withdrawal are we talking about?" Gregory kept his tone steady. "High 6 figures. Paperwork was submitted yesterday. The transfer clears today. Simone Jenkins is outside with the signed forms if you need them." She blinked once, twice. "I'm Lisa Edmonds, branch manager, and I'm sorry, but I'll need ID and authorization." Gregory paused. Authorization from who exactly? She glanced past him. "Head office." He studied her face. Something had shifted, something colder than protocol. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and firm, "you do realize I am the head office." But Lisa Edmonds wasn't listening, and her next words would send shockwaves through the room. She didn't back down. If anything, her posture stiffened, shoulders squaring like she was bracing for a fight, one she was sure she'd win. "I'm sorry," she said, louder now. "I don't care who you claim to be. I can't just hand over that kind of money because a man walks in off the street in running shoes." Her voice echoed, sharp against the marble floors and gleaming glass. The woman with the pamphlet froze. The man near the loan desk turned halfway, watching. Gregory felt the heat rise, not from anger, but from the sudden weight of eyes on him. "I'm not asking you to hand over anything," he said, measured. "I'm asking you to verify my credentials. My name is Gregory Wynn. You have my biometric data, staff recognitions, voice access. Use any of them." Lisa smirked. "You're telling me you're Gregory Wynn?" Her tone dripped with skepticism. "The CEO of Sovereign Unity? And you came here to make $1 million withdrawal in joggers?" He didn't answer. She raised an eyebrow. "That's cute." Then, turning to a young teller with a tight blonde bun, "Alicia, can you alert security? Quietly." Gregory took a slow breath. The other customers weren't speaking, but they weren't looking away either. "I'll give you one last chance," he said, voice still calm. "My assistant is outside with the paperwork. I don't need to be spoken to like I'm trespassing in a building I own." Lisa folded her arms tighter. "You don't look like someone who owns a bank." That stung, not because he hadn't heard it before, but because of how easily she'd said it. Gregory didn't raise his voice, didn't step closer, just held her gaze. "I've hired over 2,000 people," he said. "Navigated mergers, market crashes, federal audits. I built this institution on transparency, diversity, and decency. If you don't believe me, fine, but every camera here is recording this, and you're violating protocol." Lisa tilted her head, but didn't budge. "Then you won't mind stepping outside while we sort this." Gregory exhaled sharply. "I'll step outside, but only to avoid escalation." "Too late for that," Lisa muttered, nodding toward the back. "Security's coming." He turned and walked out without another word. Outside, the morning sun was already warmer. Gregory squinted, jaw tight. Simone looked up from the car, frowning. "What happened?" "She thinks I'm pretending to be me." Simone's brow furrowed. She yanked open the glove box, grabbed a file, and stepped out. "She didn't even check the system?" "Nope. Called security." "She's going to regret that," Simone said flatly. They walked back in together. Inside, security had arrived, a broad-shouldered man in his 50s, badge clipped to his belt, his expression already weary of drama. Lisa pointed. "That's him." The guard blinked. "Who?" Gregory lifted a hand. "Gregory Wynn, CEO. I'm not here to cause trouble." Lisa cut in. "He says that, but he refused to show ID." Simone stepped forward, laying the paperwork on the counter. "Signed, approved, scheduled for this morning. Look at the signature, then look at him." Lisa glanced at the document, paused, then her posture shifted, shoulders dropping, lips parting. Simone didn't flinch. "You realize what you've done, right?" Lisa scrambled. "I was following procedure." "Your job," Gregory said quietly, "was to verify, not assume." But the damage was done. And what Gregory did next wasn't about anger. It was about principle. A thick pause settled. Not just silence, a pause like time itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what Gregory Wynn would do. He didn't yell, didn't puff out his chest. That was never his way. Instead, he stepped slightly to the side and let the moment breathe. The security guard, still confused, scratched his head and glanced between the manager and the man in running gear holding executive documents. Lisa Edmonds stood rigid now, her voice losing its edge, replaced by a tremor she fought to control. "I didn't recognize you," she said, straining for professionalism. "We've had security issues before. I followed protocol." Gregory tilted his head. "Number. You followed prejudice." The woman by the pamphlet slowly returned hers to the rack and edged closer, not interrupting, but listening intently. Gregory motioned to the documents. "Simone provided everything. My signature, approval codes, the transfer notice. Every manager in this district got the memo, including you." When Lisa stayed silent, he continued. "So tell me, what about me?" screamed Fraud. Her throat worked around unspoken words. I didn't know your face." "Do you know every executive's face?" "No, but you assumed." The older man near the loan desk, quiet until now, turned fully. His gaze locked onto Lisa. "She didn't just assume," he said, voice gravel low. "She tried to shame you." Lisa shot him a glare. "This doesn't involve you." "It does," he countered. "If he hadn't had proof, you'd have called the cops on a man for existing in his own bank." The air in the branch changed, sharper, clearer, like fog lifting. Lisa turned to Simone, desperation creeping in. "Can we speak privately?" Simone didn't budge. "Number. This stays right here." Gregory checked his watch. Deals waited, power moves, but walking away now would betray everything he'd built. "Listen carefully," he said, each word deliberate. "You never treat people like this. I created Sovereign Unity because I was done watching people like me get barred from places we earned. What you did wasn't just disrespectful, it was dangerous." Lisa stiffened. "I didn't intend—" "Intent doesn't matter," Simone cut in. "It's in your reflexes, how fast you went to threat. That's what you need to examine." The security guard shuffled. "Should I call corporate?" he muttered to Gregory. "No." Gregory pulled out his phone. "I will." 30 seconds. 2 pauses. A quiet, "Understood." Then he faced Lisa again. "HR will contact you within the hour. You're relieved of duty immediately. No client interaction, no file access. You have 30 minutes to leave this building." Lisa's mouth opened. No sound emerged. "Damn," whispered the pamphlet woman. The older man nodded grimly. Gregory didn't revel in it, just held Lisa's gaze. This wasn't about rudeness. It was about recklessness. But he wasn't done yet. Lisa's hands trembled against the counter, knuckles whitening. For a heartbeat, she seemed to search for words, an apology, an excuse, but found none. Gregory turned to the young teller, Alicia. "Can you process the withdrawal with these documents?" His tone was gentle now. Alicia glanced at Lisa, then back. "Yes, sir. Just need a minute to input the codes." Her voice was barely audible. Gregory stepped back, giving her space. Simone stood rigid beside him, fury simmering beneath her polished calm. "Sorry about everything," Alicia added softly. Gregory nodded. "Not your fault." Across the lobby, the older man in khakis and a bulldog's pin approached. "Don't let it fester," he said, voice low. "She was wrong, no doubt, but you handled it right, with dignity. Most wouldn't have." Gregory's smile was thin. "This wasn't about restraint?" "It's about clarity," Gregory said. Melvin Banks nodded slowly, extending his hand. "Name's Melvin. Banked here 25 years. Never seen anything like that." Gregory shook his hand firmly. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Banks. Glad you were here to see it." He stepped back, letting Alicia work undisturbed. His phone buzzed again. Another update from the acquisitions team. He ignored it, glancing at Simone instead. "You okay?" She exhaled sharply. "I wanted to throw that binder at her head." Gregory smirked. "Would have been a lawsuit. And I can't afford to lose you." Simone shook her head, half laughing. 6 years working for you, and I've never seen someone that arrogant, that certain they were right, while being completely wrong." Gregory's gaze drifted to the bank's glass wall, where Lisa's reflection stood frozen by the counter. "You know what gets me?" he said quietly. She didn't even try to verify, because in her mind she already knew. Simone nodded. "And that's the scary part. People call it instinct, but sometimes it's just bias dressed up as confidence." Alicia raised a tentative hand. "Sir?" "Your withdrawal's ready for final approval." Gregory entered a 4-digit code, one only 3 people in the entire company knew. "Done," Alicia said. "Funds will transfer within 15 minutes. What perfect." Gregory pulled a crisp $100 bill from his money clip and slid it across the counter. "For you." Alicia's eyes widened. I can't." "You can. And you should. You handled this better than people with twice your experience. Lisa still hadn't moved, as if waiting for someone to reverse what had just happened. Gregory turned to her one last time. "Know what you could have done differently?" he asked. She looked up, eyes glistening. "Asked one more question," he said. "That's all it would have taken." With the transaction complete, Simone finally unleashed what she'd been holding back. She faced Lisa directly, voice cutting through the tense silence. "Has anyone ever treated you like that?" Lisa blinked. "What? Has someone ever taken one look at you?" Simone continued. "Decided they knew everything about you in half a second and treated you like a problem just for existing." Lisa said nothing. Simone's tone wasn't angry, just brutally calm. "You labelled him a threat the second he walked in. Didn't matter what he said. You'd already made up your mind." "I made a mistake," Lisa muttered. "No," Simone corrected. "A mistake is accidental. What you did was a choice." Gregory stayed silent. This wasn't his moment to intervene. Simone was holding up a mirror, and Lisa needed to see herself clearly. Alicia pretended to focus on her screen, cheeks flushed. The security guard leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching like he'd been waiting years for this reckoning. Finally, Gregory stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "Your termination is already processing. You'll hear from HR by noon. We're bringing in an interim manager while we restructure." Lisa opened her mouth to protest, but Gregory cut her off. "This isn't personal. It's about accountability. Everyone here needs to understand the rules don't bend based on who's standing in front of you." He held her gaze. "You don't just represent this bank. You represent trust. And today, you broke it." Lisa's defiance crumbled. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. Simone tilted her head. "Then why double down after he told you who he was?" Silence. Gregory pulled a small notebook from his jacket, scribbled a name, and handed the torn page to Lisa. "You'll get a call today, but before that, call this number. Dr. Deandra Solis, she runs bias training in Charleston. Not an order, just advice." Lisa took the paper like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "I'm not a bad person," she said weakly. "Bad people rarely think they are," Simone replied. Gregory sighed. "I don't think you're evil, but I do think you forgot your job the moment your discomfort overruled your duty. That's on you to fix, not us." He turned toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and next time someone tells you who they are, listen." Then he walked out. No grand scene, no unnecessary drama, just purpose. Simone followed as they exited, the door swinging shut behind them. The woman who'd been browsing pamphlets all morning finally spoke up. "Damn," she said. "That was the quietest takedown I've ever seen." Melvin Banks chuckled. About time someone reminded her who signs the checks. But outside, as they reached the car, Simone surprised Gregory with a question that cut deeper than expected. She didn't open the door right away. Instead, she leaned against it, clutching the now empty folder, and studied him with a long pause. "You ever get tired of this?" she asked quietly. He knew what she meant. Not the mourning, not the confrontation, not the fallout. She meant this, the endless cycle, the pressure to stay composed, the second-guessing in everyday encounters, the knowledge that one misstep could cost more than just dignity. Gregory didn't answer immediately. He watched a city bus stop at the corner, an older man stepping off with a lunchbox in hand. Just another day in Savannah, just another person handling their business. Then he turned to Simone. "Yeah," he admitted softly. "I do, but not enough to stop showing up." She nodded, her expression unreadable. "I meant what I said in there. You handled that with more grace than most. I've seen VPs lose their minds over wrong salad dressing." Gregory laughed, but it was hollow, I've seen worse. You know how many times I've had to explain who I am in my own boardroom? His gaze lifted to the bank's rooftop, where the Sovereign Unity logo gleamed in the morning light. I built this company at a folding table in a Shreveport studio apartment. 23 years old. $7,000 in savings and a dying Dell laptop. Wasn't trying to start a revolution, just wanted folks like my mum to walk into a bank without feeling like they had to prove they belonged. Simone listened, arms crossed. She used to tell me, he continued, every system's built with mirrors. Some people see themselves reflected, others just see glass. He rubbed his hands together, not from cold, but memory. First merger I ever pitched, they told me to wait in the hall. Thought I was the sandwich guy. You serious? You dead serious? Dallas, 2004. After I closed the deal, that same man asked me to train his team. Simone whistled low. So today? Just another Tuesday? No. Gregory finally opened the car door. This was personal. I could have ignored it. Called legal? Let them handle it. But then what? She'd do it to the next person, someone younger, less connected, and that person might walk out doubting themselves. Maybe they'd never come back. That's how cracks start. They got in, the silence thick. Then Simone asked, You think she'll learn from this? Gregory exhaled. Not my job to make sure I did my part. The rest is on her. The car sat still, windows cracked, the scent of sun-warmed pavement drifting in. Finally, Simone broke the quiet. You ever think about writing this down? Not just the bank stuff, the why. He considered it longer than she expected. Maybe someday. Right now, I'm still writing it in real time. She smiled. Fair enough. Gregory checked his phone. Transfer complete, deal secured. Let's head to Jenkins Realty. They'll want the update in person. But as he started the engine, Simone added one last thought, tying everything together. You know what sticks with me? She said. Not how she talked to you, but how sure she was right. Gregory kept his eyes on the road. She wasn't guessing. Simone continued. She had certainty, and that scares me. How many others walk around with that kind of certainty and authority? They turned onto East Broughton, passing shops with brick walls faded by decades of southern sun. She thought she was protecting the bank, Gregory said finally. Didn't realize she was the threat. Simone stared out the window. People make mistakes, but that wasn't a mistake. That was instinct unchecked, a reflex. Gregory nodded. She saw a black man in joggers and didn't pause before deciding he didn't belong. That's not policy, that's conditioning, and it's bigger than her. At a red light, a group of teenagers joked by a bus stop. One, tall, lean, wide-eyed, looked like Gregory at 17. I think about them a lot, he said. The ones coming after us. What world are we leaving them? What do they inherit when we don't speak up? Simone watched the kids. I hope they inherit more men like you. Double asterisk. He glanced at her, holding something steady in his expression. I'm not special. I just refused to accept the version of me others tried to hand me. The light turned green. They drove on, the bank shrinking behind them. At Jenkins Realty, Gregory parked, but didn't move. Change is easy to talk about, harder to make habitual. This bank was supposed to be different, but that only works if the people inside believe in that difference. Simone leaned back. So what now? Same as always, show up, speak up, keep pushing. The silence between them wasn't empty, it was weighted with meaning. As they stepped out, Gregory paused once more. Most think power's in money or titles. Real power, it's how you treat people when nobody's watching, or when everybody is. They walked toward the building, their quiet strength palpable, not loud, not dramatic. just right.